Welcome back. This is Principal Marcos going to talk about these diagrams here that you're looking at, and this is a continuation of the last video. In this diagram we have several similar things. So we're going to look at this one over here, which is a pathway here. And this is the same thing as this pathway here. And this is the same thing as this pathway here. And continue on. And the same diagram as this one here. And 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth. The fifth diagram here. This is the same diagram in another way with that. So, welcome. This is going to be exciting. So here, the gold color is always going to be the oneness, the unmanifest awareness, the most extreme aspect of the one being. Every aspect on this diagram is the one being. It's all the oneness. It's all the one. It's all your body. Again, here we have the one being, the unmanifest. We got it here. We got it here at the beginning of this circuit diagram, and at the end, and then we got it here at the center. So all different ways of looking at it. The oneness. So we got the oneness, and from there we have the involution. I-N-V-O-L-U-T-I-O-N. It's like the path of the gravitational path, where it's more and more into the physical world, more and more physical density. Or you can say this is the first three chakras. The first chakra, the second chakra, and the third chakra, which are about survival. And from there we have the pain point, or we have the heart chakra, which is green. The heart chakra is green. And from there we have the evolutionary pathway. So out of the heart we get the top three chakras, which are the throat chakra, which is expression. This is the path of kindness, or the evolutionary pathway. So the more and more subtle, decreasing physicality, and increasing subtlety, and more and more kindness. And we have the third eye, and then we have the crown chakra. And from there, it continues on. I can draw it now, back into the unmanifest, into the beyond the body, into the unmanifest, the formless state of oneness. And if you maintain awareness at every point on that diagram, then you can experience every point. And I'll talk more about that in the following. So I'll touch each one of these diagrams, and we'll talk about the same thing in different ways. So again, I drew this in a previous video, and you might recognize it. And you might have thought that, is this the eyeball that we're looking at? Yeah, it's the eyeball. It can also be the eyeball. Outside of the eye is the unmanifest, or the astral body, or the more and more subtle bodies. And from there the light enters the eye, and it goes, you can say, into a more and more physicality through the so it rides up the light, or you can say it goes more and more into the physical, and it hits the back of the eye. So it goes through the lens, it gets focused, and it hits to the earth point, which is also called, you can call it the pain point, or the most physicality, the most extreme, or the beginning of awareness, or where kindness, or where awareness begins. If awareness hadn't begun earlier, this is a point where it can happen, and I'll show that in a few other diagrams. So after the light gets focused in the back of the retina and possibly goes into the brain and does some stuff, it's really a touchstone, a springboard for the light to continue on through the evolutionary pathway and go out of the eye. As long as there's not too much association tying up the light, then like cultural associations that might cause the light to crash and burn, or return to the involutionary pathway. We don't want the light to stay within this small circuit. We want the light to continue out of the body and go and continue on the awareness, conscious awareness in the evolutionary pathway to continue on out of the body and back and continue on all the way back into the oneness. We want it to enter the most subtle form of awareness, and to have the conscious awareness of the oneness, which is everywhere. So in the next diagram, we'll look at it a third way. We have the oneness here. This is a line, right? And the line has two extreme points. We have the oneness, and at the opposite end of the oneness is right here. It's the most extreme point. Again, we can see that diagram here. At the center of the circle is the source. It's the oneness. And out of the oneness, through the involutionary pathway, here's the involutionary pathway, with unconscious flow of the light. At the most extreme point, the light has perspective on the whole circle, and at that point, that's when I'll show you another way. At the perpendicular point, at the most extreme point, it can have kind of a vision of the whole circle, and at that point, awareness can, conscious self-awareness can happen, and it can start to notice that the path of kindness or the path of awareness is a valuable path, and it can return to the oneness, to the more and more subtle, into the more to less of an association and more of an awareness, less of a coloring of what's happening. And what's pretty amazing is that these are two aspects of the one, two extremes of the one being, and over here is the same point. It's the same. It's all oneness. So that's that second diagram, and I can see the one has many bodies. The one has many physical bodies. So we could say we can draw more and more circles here, because the one has many bodies, right? So there's going to be another body over here, because it's all the one being. Everything in the universe is the one being. It's the one awareness. Just in many bodies, in many associations have created many bodies, but it's all the physicality is as much part of the oneness as the unmanifest is. In a circuit diagram, we have the source or the battery, and from the battery the light continues, or the current, and from the current we have the involution, or the more and more physicality, or the flow, and increasing resistance, and you can say that again, that's the first three chakras. And from there we have the load, or we could say it's the heart chakra, and from there the load is the resistance. And if there isn't a lot of association, if there isn't a lot of holding on to of the light, or identification with the light, or as long as there's association with self at every point along the circuit diagram, the awareness, the witness awareness can continue into the more and more subtle levels, into the higher chakras, or just further on through the circuit, and it can experience self, or experience itself, or itself as it, the one, or the source again, the opposite extreme. So that's the diagrams that I wanted to draw, and I'll talk a little bit more with a little bit more verbiage If the light is not identified with at the load, it continues through the circuit with more awareness than if identification occurs. If identification occurs, it ties up the awareness. It focuses. It singles out itself as separate, and it ties itself up in association. The less resistance at the focus or at the load, the more awareness continues on out of the body into the beyond circuit. More awareness is synonymous with more current, and it continues on out of the body. The less resistance or load, the freer the flowing of awareness through the circuit, the one body. The less resistance, the freer it can flow. The less resistance, the freer it can flow. From involution to evolution, from gravitational to magnetic. And this can also be seen as the eye again. If the culture provides a learning for these students to learn about more than the physicality, then it can continue on beyond the body. And that's the goal. The goal of these videos is to help develop this so that the teens and the other adults can continue on and develop and learn and progress and begin to establish more and more awareness out of the body to the rest of the circuit, to the opposite extreme of physicality, and return to the source.